Will the Union for the Mediterranean, which Nicolas Sarkozy wants to launch on July the 13th, be the first feather in the cap for the next French presidency of the European Union? After the watered-down agreement adopted at the EU summit last March, can the project lend a new dynamism to the Barcelona process? EuroNews has sought the opinions of two celebrated political figures from the left, Hubert Vedrine, former advisor to Francois Mitterrand, and Bonino, a former EU commissioner and currently a minister in Italy's outgoing government.
As far as I'm concerned, I found the president's idea good at first. Moreover, other people had thought the same things in France, mainly because it was clear there was a problem with Barcelona. One has done many things with Barcelona, but there was a frustration as hopes were not realised and the countries in the south were dissatisfied, rightly or wrongly, at the Commission, which they saw as being too bureaucratic, putting in too many conditions and not enough stress on partnership. So the idea of launching something new on an equal footing with neighbouring countries, which have many common problems, that, I found, was a rather strong idea, rather logical in fact. But I think it was not presented properly at the start. By presenting it as a union almost able to compete with the European Union, it was obvious that was going to be very badly misunderstood by the Commission, by Germany and by other countries. I just hope now that after the compromise between Merkel and Sarkozy, one simply will not return to the system we had before, because it would be frustrating, and I really hope that it will reinvigorate the Barcelona process and that we manage to put in place something concrete, some common projects and partnerships. That would be ideal.
Ce qu'on a reçu, nous, d'autres pays,
If you like, what we got was a document without subtitles, with countries not understanding things very well. Obviously, our Turkish friends were very nervous because they immediately had the suspicion that it was a way for us to interfere with their joining the EU. The Egyptians were also very irritated because no one really understood what was happening.
Les Égyptiens aussi étaient aussi très énervés parce que personne n'arrivait pas trop bien.
And then, obviously, when the project was presented, it was done awkwardly, as we did not all understand how it was going to work. We do need this political pressure, but we didn't really see how it was going to work with the EU. For example, could you obtain funding from the European Union if some states were excluded? So there was one moment, in my opinion, that we, i.e. the Italians, were also a little nervous.
I understand people being worried. I also think it was badly presented.
It's why one was worried, but it seems that gradually, as we discussed things, it became clear. We now understand the main spirit of this project, and this is to include more politics.
To see others as partners.
Exactly, that's fundamental, and I'm not sure that we've done this until now.
No, between us, we Europeans have been rather paternalistic. We organise projects for the people in the south.
And then we let them know by email. This can't go on anymore.
Do you think that Europeans have understood this, that they must change their way of thinking?
No, evidently not, but we definitely have to make more effort to explain things to our partners. It's not true that all European countries consider the Mediterranean countries as a priority, but we should take care not to exclude them.
Well, they won't be excluded, but there are some countries more dynamic than others, such as Italy, France, Spain.
We saw that for EU enlargement.
But there is still a question of changing the mentality. The main thing now is who will identify the projects. If it's the same as before, it won't work.
I believe that those countries which are more concerned about this are ones such as France and Italy. They've started doing things another way and are making sure the projects are discussed together, north and south, face to face and not by mail. For example, even a small secretariat can give an impetus. We've already considered this.
Yes, because I believe that in the last agreement it was agreed to establish a double secretariat, one from the north, one from the south. This is better.
Yes, it was our idea, it's true. We have already thought about this.
But the best thing would be for the southern countries to choose their own projects and say what interests them.
That's the way to go for the south.
After thinking about it, the only project that concerns everybody without exception is the sea, because if we do nothing, the sea will die in 10 or 15 years. There won't be any more fish or anything, so it means we're all concerned. For the rest, there are different interests, so we should be very flexible and pragmatic. There may be 5, 10 or 12 different countries involved in any one project.
It's a nonsense to wait for total agreement on a project. If we do so, we'll achieve nothing.
Remember, I was with Francois Mitterrand and I was behind the Eureka programme. It was a response to the USA's Star Wars programme, which Reagan supported and we didn't want. It's the same today, the same way of doing things, very pragmatic and lots of projects. Now, there is a more institutionalised dimension, but I still believe in pragmatism, otherwise political barriers will stop us.
Plus, we have to start now and not wait for total agreement, otherwise we will never move. So I believe in a flexible structure with a large political dimension, because one of the frustrations of the southern countries is that they don't get political interaction with the north.
Normally, this should be decided at the summit on July the 13th.
And after, one has to include mechanisms which lead to...
Maybe some new funds. I have some ideas. There are the funds from the community, but why not private funding? Because it's a union for the Mediterranean, which could bring in other countries such as Qatar, Abu Dhabi,
which are already very active in the Mediterranean.
Funds from the community should be safeguarded. They were already included in the Barcelona process. So do you believe it's possible to combine all the different forms of funding?
Yes, it's possible on some projects.
On specific projects, but not on institutions.
One can use private funding for specific projects, not for institutions. This is obvious. The main thing to do now is to get things moving.
I totally agree. I think we have reached the same conclusion. We should start projects on July the 13th.
We should think of the projects before.
This should appear immediately. We agree, I think.
And that's good, not a crime.
Okay? Grazie. Oops.